Hello and welcome back to Fallout 76. Today I am at the Rusty Pick and there is a legendary vendor sale, which means everything is 25% off. Well, not everything. Legendary modules, they're still full price, but weapons and armor, power armor, all 25% off. This character is actually at max Scrip. It kind of crept up on me. I didn't realize that's where I was. So I have 6,000. My plan is to spend half of it. Now the plan is ranged weapons. You can see they are 75 Scrip instead of 100, and I'm going to spend 3 of my 6,000, which means I can do 40 if my math is correct. So that is a lot. Let's get right to it. First one is going to be a 2-shot Snubnose 44 with 50% VATS hit chance and minus 25% reduced AP cost. This is actually a good roll. 2-shot, a little bit of extra damage. VATS hit chance will more than make up for the loss of accuracy for it being 2-shot. And reduced AP cost. Yeah, you could stay in VATS longer. So yeah, we're off to a good start. That's a good combination of effects on a okay weapon. Next up, we've got another 2-shot. 2-shot harpoon gun with extra critical damage plus 1 agility. This one's not so great. 2-shot's a little bit of extra damage, but these aren't the most accurate things in the world, and 2-shot is just gonna hurt that a little more. Extra critical damage, you know, that's good if you're using it in VATS. And plus 1 agility, not terribly useful, but yeah, this is gonna be a throwaway. It's pretty heavy. Next up, we've got an instigating Hellstorm missile launcher with damage while aiming and plus 1 perception. I did test instigating on a regular missile launcher. I wasn't super impressed. Something like this, I think 2-shot is still the way to go. And the rest of the effect, damage while aiming, I mean, I'd probably want to use this in VATS. I don't know if this has the targeting computer like the regular missile launcher does. I've never actually used a Hellstorm missile launcher, so I don't know. If I ever get a good one, I will try it, but this does not qualify. Next up, we've got a Ghoul Slayer's Gatling Plasma with extra limb damage and 25% reduced AP cost. For me, this is never going to be a VATS weapon. The AP cost is way too high. Limb damage, if you want to cripple a bunch of enemies at once, this is a decent weapon for that, although it does a lot of damage, so it's probably better as just a killing everything kind of weapon. But you do not need extra damage against ghouls, so that first star makes this a throwaway. Next, we've got an Assassin's Alien Disintegrator with more bash damage and plus 1 perception. Plus 1 perception, really not going to do a lot for you. Now, when the change to legendary crafting happens, whenever that is, that would be plus 3 perception, which is probably a bit more noticeable. But I can only go by what it is at the moment. Bash damage, this is not a bash weapon at all. And extra damage against humans, yeah, you really don't need that. I don't want enemy-specific stuff, so this is also a throwaway. Next up, we've got a Hunter's Crossbow, replenish AP with each kill, and plus 1 perception. Crossbows are pretty underwhelming. Now, when we're able to put quad on this, if things go through as they are on the PTS right now anyway, quad would be about the only thing that would get me to use one of these. Hunters would not. Replenish AP with each kill. It's an okay star, but on something like this, I really want VATS hit chance just because they are just terrible in VATS. Plus 1 perception, not that great of a star, but yeah, overall, this is just not something I want. Next up, we've got an Executioner's Gamma Gun with extra critical damage and damage resist while aiming. Critical damage, that is a VATS effect. Damage while aiming is not. So those two put together, yeah, they don't really go together. And Executioners is okay, especially against a boss. An enemy that has a lot of health where they're going to be sitting in that 40% range for a bit is pretty good. But overall, this is just kind of underwhelming for me. Next up, we've got an Executioner's Compound Bow with extra critical damage and 90% reduced weight. So Executioners, again, I mean, it's a pretty good effect. It's very situational, though. I mean, against most enemies, I don't think it's all that great. But against high health enemies that are going to take a while to kill, it's actually a really good effect. Extra critical damage, also a very good effect. 90% reduced weight. Now, I'm not a fan of the Compound Bow, but because of the 90% reduced weight, this is something I'm going to save until the legendary crafting changes take effect, whenever that is. It could be in a couple of months, could be in 6 months, we don't know, but it's not going to take up any weight in my stash, really, and these are effects that I would want to learn if at all possible. So this will be something I will save to scrap at a later date. Next up, we've got an Instigating Pepper Shaker with limb damage and weapon break slower. So something like this, limb damage is actually really good. Pepper Shaker is one of those spray and pray kind of weapons where you're just going to hit a lot of enemies, just, probably hip firing, just hit a lot of enemies, at once. So limb damage is good for mass crippling. Instigating, though, is not the right kind of star you want for that. I mean, really on a pepper shaker, it just doesn't hold a ton of rounds for as quickly as it shoots. So you probably want quad on this. If not, something that does more damage like Aristocrats, Anti-Armor, Bloodied. So that first star is really not something I'd be interested in. Weapon breaks slower. I honestly haven't used a pepper shaker enough to know how quickly that breaks. You know, some things break really quickly, some things not so much. So I actually have no idea how useful that is on this particular weapon, but it's never a bad star. Next up, we've got a Bloodied Gamma Gun with critical damage and reduced AP cost. All right, this is really good. Gamma Gun actually does really nice damage. Now, it only holds 8 rounds, and that doesn't matter whether you modify it as an automatic or semi-automatic. It only holds 8 rounds. I do like using these as an automatic, but you gotta have quad if you're gonna do that. But for a semi-automatic, this is actually really good. This will do a lot of damage for a low health character. So this is something I will hold on to. Next up, we've got a Bloodied Gauss Pistol with bash damage, weapon breaks slower. So first of all, this is not a tradable item. This particular weapon cannot be traded, and the character I'm on plays full health. So Bloodied is just not ever going to be useful. Bash damage is not going to be useful either. This is not the kind of weapon you bash with. Weapon breaks slower. I don't remember these breaking exceptionally quickly, so that 3rd star is not something I'd be interested in. But overall, I'm not a big fan of these weapons. I've really tried to like them, and they're just frustrating. I mean, even if you get perfect combination of effects, then they're just less frustrating, but they're always frustrating. So this will go back into the Scrip machine. Next up, we've got a Bloodied Fat Man with bash damage and chance to generate a stealth field. Okay, that 3rd star, not useful at all on something like this. Bash damage, not really either. With something like this, you really don't want to be close enough to bash your enemies. I mean, this is a distance kind of weapon. So that 2nd star, if you're close enough to bash, you're too close. So it's basically a 1 star, and you really want to have 2-shot on something like this. So this is just really, really heavy Scrip. Next up, we've got a Furious minigun with damage while aiming and VATS critical charge. Okay, damage while aiming, not a VATS effect. VATS critical charge, that is a VATS effect. So that 3rd star, especially on a weapon like this, you're probably not using it in VATS. So that 3rd star doesn't really do anything. This is basically a 2-star item. Furious is actually the right kind of thing. I mean, this is the right kind of weapon for Furious. You do want something that does basically a lower damage, high rate of fire weapon, which is exactly what this is. So Furious is actually not the worst effect. Damage while aiming, actually not a bad effect either. I would either manually aim or hip fire with something like this. So the first 2 stars are actually pretty good. That 3rd star is basically no star at all. Next up, we've got Nocturnal Railway Rifle with VATS hit chance and faster reload speed. That's actually two of the good stars are really good. Nocturnal, I mean, if you're gonna play at night, it's great, but if you're playing during the day, it doesn't do anything at all. So it's one of those bonuses that you only have half the time, which for me, I'm not a fan of stuff like that. I know there are people that like stuff like that. I am not one of them. VATS hit chance is actually really good, and faster reload speed is also very, very good. So this has 2 really good stars and one kind of meh star. Next, we've got a Troubleshooter's Radium Rifle with last round and faster reload speed. Faster reload speed is good. This basically has capacity. This is basically the combat rifle. I mean, it has the same kind of capacities as a combat rifle, so last round is not really useful in that case, but faster reload speed, that's always a good choice. But this is enemy specific, which is just not something I'm interested in. Next up, we've got an Assassin's Gauss Rifle with limb damage and faster movement speed while aiming. Okay, Assassins, I do like the Gauss Rifle. It is one of my favorite rifleman type weapons. It does really nice damage, but Assassins just not useful really. Humans don't need that. They don't need extra help. Limb damage, something like this, it actually does really, really big damage. So limb damage isn't what I'm looking for. I'm looking to kill stuff in 1 to 2 shots. So limb damage, not really what I'm looking for in that 2nd star. And that 3rd star, give me faster reload, give me reduced AP cost, faster crit refill, something like that. I'm not interested in faster movement speed while aiming. Next up, we've got a Mutant Scatling Plasma with damage while aiming and reduced AP cost. We have another case where we have a 2nd and 3rd star that don't work together. One is an out of VATS effect, and one is a VATS effect. And reduced AP on something like this, I mean, it's still going to be really high. This is not a typical VATS weapon. I know the people that will do it, they'll spam canned coffee just to have their AP recharge and use this in VATS, but typically that's not the way you would play this. So that 3rd star, not that useful. Mutants, it's a mid-tier effect, so extra 25% damage is good. Damage while aiming, you're either going to aim it or you're going to hip fire it. I actually play these, I tend to hip fire them. So that 2nd star for me wouldn't be useful either. So this would be just a 1 star for my particular use, and it's just kind of an okay 1 star, and it's really heavy. So this is not something I'll hold on to. Next up, we've got Berserker's Ultrasight Galling Laser with extra critical damage and chance to become invisible. Yeah, this is just all kinds of wrong. First of all, this is a heavy gun. You're most likely, I mean, the best case for this is using it in power armor so you can have stabilized for that 45% armor penetration. If you're wearing power armor, then obviously Berserkers is going to be completely useless. So you don't tend to want to have Berserkers on heavy guns. I mean, you could use it, but extra critical damage, this is not a VATS weapon, not really. You could use it in VATS, but that's not really the optimal use. So that 2nd star, not useful at all. And that 3rd star, chance to become invisible, no, just never. So this is just a throwaway. Next, we've got a Troubleshooter's 10mm pistol with damage while aiming and VATS critical charge. Okay, yep, same thing. 2nd, 3rd stars don't go together. We got an out of VATS effect and an in VATS effect, so that's not really good. And the first one is enemy specific, and that's not good either. Next, we've got a Bloodied Plasma Caster. Replenish AP with each kill, faster movement speed while aiming. This is another one of those weapons that is not tradable, and my character plays full health, so Bloodied really isn't going to be all that useful to me. Replenish AP with each kill. I'd rather have VATS critical charge or extra VATS hit chance, something like this, something like that. 3rd star, not really interested. I'd rather have either reduced weight or faster reload, reduced AP cost. So overall, this is not a keeper. And we are halfway through. So we've 20 down, 20 more to go. So let's get us started with this. Suppressors, Galling Laser with last round and 90% reduced weight. There is only 1 good star on this weapon. And it is the 3rd star. So last round and something that holds 500 is just stupid. So that's no good. Suppressors, the duration's too low, really. And if I wear power armor, which is how I would normally play a heavy gun, I don't really care about, suppressing their damage. I want to do more damage. So suppressors just never is going to interest me. But at least it has 90% reduced weight, so it doesn't take up much room in my stash. Next, we've got a 2-shot lever action with bullets explode and chance to become invisible. All right, that's kind of interesting. Lever action rifle is a good rifleman weapon. 2-shot, I'm not really interested in that unless I get explosive with it, which is what we have here. So we do have 2-shot explosive, which is should do actually pretty good damage. That last star though, chance to become invisible, not really anything. So this is basically a 2-star, but it's actually a really good 2-star. Next up, we've got an instigating plasma pistol. Replenish AP with each kill, chance to become invisible. Okay, I'm not a fan of chance to become invisible. There's just no case where I'm going to be happy that that's on my weapon. So that's an automatic just mark against this. Instigating for a sniper weapon, that's actually pretty good. And plasma pistols actually can make pretty good sniper weapons. They have nice range, very good VATS accuracy. So instigating is actually a really good star. Replenish AP with each kill is, for something like that, if I did modify it as a sniper, I'm not really interested in the AP part of it. I'd rather have something that gives me either more critical damage, more damage while aiming, or extra VATS hit chance. So overall, this is, it has 1 good star as far as I'm concerned. Next, we've got a Mutant Slayer's Flamer, damage while aiming, faster movement speed while aiming. Well, at least the 2nd and 3rd stars go together. They're not stars that I want, but they go together. When I use a Flamer, I hip fire. I don't actually aim Flamers. I don't use them in VATS. Other people may do other things, but that's how I use them. I always hip fire. So damage while aiming is never going to be useful. Faster movement speed while aiming, I don't really care about that either since I'm not aiming. So that leaves 1 star, which is enemy specific. So overall, this is just a throwaway. Next on the list, we've got a Hunter's Ultrasight Gatling Laser with bash damage and invisible. Okay, 3rd star, throwaway, bash damage. This really doesn't have a high base damage per shot, so the bashing shouldn't be really all that effective. And it's not really why you have a weapon like this anyway. And then we have something that's enemy specific, which is Hunters, which we don't want either. So 3 stars we don't want, and it goes away. And we've got a Medic's 50 cal machine gun with last round and damage resist while reloading. So Medic's is not, that's a VATS effect, but on the PTS right now, Medic's is actually different. It heals if you shoot at friendly targets, and I haven't tested it, so I don't know what counts as a friendly target or not. I'm assuming teammates do, NPCs and events do, but I don't know about players that aren't on your team. I don't know if that's a thing or not, but this basically, the effect is different. It becomes basically like friendly fire, a weapon that always just does friendly fire. So Medics could be an interesting first support character when the update finally happens, whenever that is. But then we have last round. This has a 250 capacity. Last round on that is just dumb. And damage resist while reloading. The reloads on these aren't super quick, so that's okay, except I'm probably going to be wearing power armor if I use this, and so I don't really need extra resistance. So this is effectively a 1 star that might be interesting at some point in the future, and it's heavy, and it's going in the Scrip machine. Next up, we've got a Stalker's light machine gun with damage while aiming and weapon breaks slower. Okay, well, Stalker's is unreliable, but it is a VATS effect, and damage while aiming is not, so first and second stars don't go together. Break slower, I've used these quite a bit, and I don't think they break all that quickly, so I'd rather have either faster reload speed, reduced weight, something like that. I don't really care about breaking slower on this particular weapon. I don't really care. Damage while aiming, I do aim them rather than hip fire, so I do like that star, but the other two I'm not interested in. Next, we've got a Gourmand's laser pistol with limb damage and faster movement speed while aiming. Gourmand's mid-tier effect up to 24% damage. Limb damage, I'm not really looking to cripple with something like this. I mean, you could. That's not really the way I would use them. I'd try and kill things, so limb damage, not super useful, and that third star, for me, is never useful. We've got a Suppressor's Gatling Plasma with last round and invisible. Okay, this is just a trifecta of crap. Chance to become invisible, never useful. Last round is almost never useful, and on something that holds 500 is never useful. And suppressors, again, it's just not an effect that I care for, so this is just really heavy and I want to get rid of it. Next up, we've got an Executioner's Combat Shotgun with VATS hit chance and +1 perception. So on shotguns, VATS hit chance is my favorite second star, so that works for me. Executioners is a good effect. I think it is a bit situational, but it's still a decent effect. +1 perception is not going to be all that useful. I'd rather have faster reload. Honestly, I'd rather have either faster reload or reduced AP cost as a third star on this. So this is, and I have better shotguns, so this is going away. So I was really hoping to get a few more things that were really lightweight and had a good combination of effects so I could save them for the new legendary crafting system so I could scrap them, either get a mod or learn a mod. And so far, I think I've got one thing. I think there's only been one thing that qualifies for that. I've gotten a lot of heavy things today, which is not what I was going for at all. But on we go. So the next one is going to be an Instigating Snubnose 44 with last round and +1 perception. Last round, I'm not a fan of that in general, but it's a little more reasonable on something that has a capacity of 6 instead of 500. It's still not a star that I want though. +1 perception, not really gonna move the needle one way or the other. Instigating is, these can actually do pretty decent damage if you're spec for it with the right mods. So Instigating could actually be pretty decent, but overall this is just not all that interesting to me. And next we've got Instigating Gauss Minigun, damage while aiming, 90% reduced weight. 90% reduced weight is good on this because it is very heavy. Damage while aiming, that's probably the way I really haven't used these much. I used them when they first, when it was a brand new item and I didn't know anything and I was trying to use it on a commando character in VATS, which of course didn't go very well at all. So, and I have never revisited the weapon since, which I probably should do at some point. I should revisit it a little bit more. I think I've done one brief test on it, but these do really nice damage. This is not a combination that I want though. Damage while aiming is good, but instigating, this is not really a one-shot kind of thing where you want to instigate. You'd rather have more damage like anti-armor, aristocrats, bloodied, something like that, or two-shot, something like that. So instigating, not really a desirable effect, but the second, third stars are okay, but not the kind of combination of effects I'd be looking for. And we've got a Hunter's Gatling Gun, damage while aiming, weapon breaks slower. These do not break very quickly, so that's not a third star that I'd really want. I'd rather have reduced weight, honestly. I mean, these reload really quick, so you don't need that. I'm not using it in VATS, so really 90% reduced weight would have been a better option. Damage while aiming, these are good aiming or hip firing either way, so that's actually a good star. Hunters though, extra damage against animals, no thank you. Next up, we've got a Junkie's Gatling Plasma with damage while aiming and bonus VATS critical charge. This is not really a VATS weapon, so that third star is basically no star. Damage while aiming, I mean, you're either gonna aim this or you're going to do a hip fire. I personally would be using it mostly to hip fire, so that third star is not, or that second star is not gonna be super helpful. And Junkies would be fine if I was running addictions, which I'm not. And this is just kind of too heavy to hang on to. So this is just, yeah, this is not interesting to me. Next up, we've got a Furious Missile Launcher, weapon speed, and +1 perception. Furious is the wrong star to have on a weapon like this. You're looking at one-shot things, and if you're looking at one-shot things, Furious is completely useless. So weapon speed, I guess. I mean, really, yeah, this is, I don't have anything else to say about it. This is just garbage. Next up, we've got an Instigating Combat Rifle with damage while aiming and chance to become invisible. Okay, third star, throwaway. Damage while aiming, if you're playing out of VATS, that's actually a really good effect. Instigating, you know, if you modify this as a semi-automatic using as kind of a sniper rifle, Instigating could actually be a pretty decent star. These don't have a really high damage though, so you're not going to be one-shotting. You know, early on you might, but as you get higher level, you're just not going to be one-shotting a lot of things with this. So instigating for the most part isn't going to be terribly useful. So I'm not really interested in this at all, in any way at all. If my math is correct, we are 90% of the way through, which means we have 4 more to go. So let's get right to them. Exterminator's Gatling Plasma with bash damage, +1 agility. Extra damage against bugs we don't really need. We're not bashing with this, and +1 agility, not useful either, so this go... Man, I've got a lot of heavy stuff today. A lot of really, really heavy stuff. So this is not gone the way I wanted at all. Next up is 2-shot harpoon gun. Replenish AP with each kill. Damage resist while reloading. We got something similar to this earlier. I don't remember the other combination of effects, but it was a 2-shot, but I don't remember what the other ones were. But this is, yeah, this is not something I'm interested in. We're just going to move on. The final 2. So we've got this. Troubleshooter's Fat Man with bash damage and VATS critical charge. Okay, well, it's a Fat Man. It's not 2-shot. So that's all we need to say about that. All right, here we go. The last one. The last of a long line of... let's see if we can go out with something that's not incredibly heavy. That's not incredibly heavy. That's actually pretty good. Juggernaut's Hunting Rifle. So we've got Juggernauts with VATS hit chance and bonus VATS critical charge. Okay, Juggernauts... extra damage. It's only a mid-tier effect, but it's still extra damage. VATS hit chance on a hunting rifle. Hunting rifles tend to be kind of iffy when it comes to VATS, but that 50% VATS hit chance actually makes a massive difference. I've used hunting rifles quite a bit, and VATS hit chance is really the star that I want. So that's really good. VATS critical charge, that's actually good too. More frequent critical hits. So overall, this is actually pretty solid. So I ended up with a lot of stuff to sort through, and most of it is really heavy, which is not the way I was hoping this would go. I got that compound bow that had the nice combination of effects and it's reduced weight, so I'll be able to hold on to that for when legendary crafting, the changes come around, whenever that happens to be. But other than that, I mean, I have to look through it again, but I think everything else I got is going to be fed right back into the Scrip machine. But hopefully you enjoyed this anyway. If you did, please hit one of the buttons, and I hope you'll join me in the next one. Thank you very much.